we're going to practice being looked at. And I forgot to tell you this, Zoran. You're looking at me quizzically. I am practicing being looked at. So, you can either have a chair for this or you can sit on the floor. So remember yesterday with Zoran, you did the lowering of the head and raising of the head. You're going to do that in threesomes, which means it's going to be three of you. So one of you is going to be sitting, and you can either sit on a chair or sit on the floor. The second of you is going to use their hands. So remember with Zoran, you were thinking about different points. You know, it could be the chin, it could be the nose, could be the back of the head, could be the back of the neck. As many different points as you can think of that are socially acceptable to put your hand on. We do have some constraints. Yeah, socially acceptable. So maybe nose. Maybe not. I don't know. You put your hand on someone's nose. Lips, maybe not. The chin, maybe. Back of head's quite socially acceptable. You decide. But how do you decide what's socially acceptable? It's going to have to be a mutual definition, right? Pubic bone, wouldn't go there myself. Tailbone, maybe. You know, I don't know. Sitting bones, maybe. Along the spine. So how would you negotiate that is I guess, part of the mission. Obviously, it could be a verbal, or it could be that you kind of, you know, you're sensing, is this, if I put my hand on the small of their back, is this acceptable to them? So there's that. So your hand is going to be like their attention was yesterday. Is that clear? And then the third person is the witness to the whole thing, watching and seeing what is the influence. What can I see is the influence of that person having their attention directed by the second person's hand. So here's the thing, how lightly can your hand rest on that person? So we're now introducing this idea of touch and what is socially acceptable. So if my hand is really heavy, does that, and I'm not suggesting you actually do this because this is, but what's the sort of lightness that my hand rests on that person, that enough to be informative? If it's too light, it's kind of irritable because are they touching me or not? Like, you know, it could be like that, or it could be really nice if it's really light. If it's too heavy, it could be a barrier to the movement, right? It could be actually inhibiting them. So there's a Goldilocks around touch. Goldilocks meaning there's a just right. It's not too heavy, it's not too light, it's not too big, it's not too small. It's just right. That's Goldilocks. I use that because that's a metaphor I use a lot, and I was using it in Amsterdam, and they're all so polite. And they finally said, "We don't know Goldilocks," because their English is good, but it's not that good. But, and so they had to look it up, and there is, of course, a Dutch. Are you Dutch, Alison? No, you just look. You look Amsterdam to me. You're tall and blonde. Yeah, it is a compliment. It's a compliment for me. Sorry. Yeah. Ah, no. So yeah, in Amsterdam there's a room of Alisons. So not actually literally, really, but there's a lot of tall, blonde, gorgeous people. So there's that aspect of touch. And now in Feldy kind of jargon, when we put a hand on someone like this, our attempt is to be unobtrusive. Now, of course, it can't be fully unobtrusive. Otherwise, if it was completely unobtrusive, it would be a waste of time. So you're going to have an influence. But if your intention is that you're going along for the ride, that's our jargon. So when we say going along for the ride, your intention is not to inhibit and not to facilitate. It's simply to be there. So your hand is a witness with this idea of not interfering as much as possible. Now, like in any good experiment, the observer influences the experiment. So you don't have the illusion that you're not having any effect. You're having minimal effect. Have I kind of made that clear? So when you're going along for the ride, you're neither driving nor holding back. You're just going along for the ride. So that means you have to start thinking about what's their movement trajectory, and can my hand track their movement trajectory. So if they're flexing and coming back, so extending, flexing and extending, if you're, when they're, you know, let's say, I better not use you because I'll use you. So let's say you're dropping your head and I'm here. If I'm here, like I'm fully away from her and I'm right at my limit when she's here, now she drops her head, I have to do a big adjustment to follow her. Whereas if I start off somewhere in my middle, and then as she lifts and lowers her head, then I'm going from my middle, away from my middle, back to my middle, away from my middle. Do you see my point? So I'm kind of anticipating what her range is, her range of possibilities of movement. And I'm, in a way, I'm kind of matching that. So that my middle of possibilities is her middle of possibilities, right? So that I'm not starting at my end and then having to do something big, because she'll feel that. So we're starting off in that kind of middle bit. I can't say anything different than that, the equipoise bit. Is that sort of clear? So you have to think about your movement in order to go along for the ride as unobtrusively as possible, so that your process doesn't interfere with her process, because she's the center of the universe in this sort of system and you're a satellite. Any questions? All right. So there's 3 of you, so you can confer, and then we'll do that for about 5 minutes-ish each. So the person, the person who's sitting is simply going through that flexion extension stuff. The second person is the attention with the hand. And the third person is the witness to the whole thing. Okay? No. Witnesses, and then you'll make some observations, obviously, and when at the end, as a threesome, you can confer and share experiences, because you'll have 3 different sets of experiences: feeling, being felt, and watching the feeling. Any other questions? Yep. Yep. And you're tracking. Yeah, putting your hand on different parts. Any of those parts that Zoran mentioned yesterday, that would be socially acceptable for you to put your hand on today. And that you can manage, that you can kind of access as well. And your hand is just traveling with the person. It's like your hand is, you know, it's the passenger. They're the driver, and the passenger is just being carried this way and that. Yeah. The person, the hand with the hand. The person with the hand is going along for the ride. So if my hand is going along for the ride with Angela. She's in control. She's in control. Now just going along for the ride. So I'm trying not to interfere. My hand is witnessing. My intention is not to influence. Like I said, I can't actually not influence. You can feel that, right? Even my hand being there is very informative. But I'm not saying, now I'm pushing her down, right? And I'm influencing her. So you can see her movement changed immediately, because I have a different idea of what. So my hand is like, I'm really interested in what this feels like. And it's a question. My hand is there with a question. It's not there with a statement of move your head down. That's a statement. It's not there with a, I don't know what you're doing. Being sort of, you know, if I'm like this and move, and I kind of, like, how annoying is that? You know, it's like, what the hell is she doing? Is she doing my hair? Is she, you know, is she a flea? Is she, it's like really indecisive touch is, in my opinion, in my experience, I should say, as obnoxious as you know, so it's the happy medium, Goldilocks, always Goldilocks. So I'm the one, in this instance, I'm the one that's going along for the ride and you're the witness. She's the driver. Okay? So we're going to do this a million bazillion times so that you really feel the difference between being the driver, going along for the ride. Because obviously when we're giving FI, we are doing all of those things. We are watching, we are feeling, we are going along for the ride, and then we're directive as well. We're questioning. Okay? So in threes,